He had the same dream for 15 years. Every few months it returned. He was standing in a house he didn't recognize, but somehow he knew it was his. And in every version of the dream, there was a door at the end of a dark hallway. He never opened it. He always woke up just before his hand touched the handle. For 15 years, he told himself it meant nothing. Dreams are just noise, random images, the brain processing the day. He was a rational man, educated, successful, completely in control. He didn't believe in symbols. He didn't believe in the unconscious. He believed in what he could see, measure, and explain. And yet, the door kept coming back. If you have ever had a dream that stayed with you longer than it should, or a pattern in your life you cannot explain no matter how hard you try, what you are about to hear is going to change how you see yourself forever. Because today we are going inside one of the most important books ever written about the human mind. Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols, his final work, written at 85 years old, knowing he was dying, and in it, he left something behind that most people never get to hear. Not because it is complicated, because it is uncomfortable. Stay with this. Every second of what follows matters. This is the moment you finally understand what has been running your life without your permission. Jung wrote Man and His Symbols for one reason. A journalist asked him if ordinary people, not scientists, not analysts, could understand his life's work. Jung said yes, but only if it was written in a language people could feel, not just read. So he wrote it, not for academics sitting in lecture halls, for the man with the recurring dream, for the woman who keeps ending up in the same relationship wearing a different face, for everyone who has ever looked at the wreckage of a pattern they keep repeating and thought, why do I keep doing this? This is what he found. Jung called it the shadow. And before you picture something dark and monstrous, stop, because that is not what he meant. The shadow is not the worst version of you. It is something far more personal than that. The shadow is everything you were told you were not allowed to be. Read that again slowly. Not evil, not dangerous, just not allowed. The little boy who cried and was told men don't cry. He didn't stop feeling. He stopped showing feeling. That feeling went somewhere. The little girl who was loud and electric and full of power and was told to be quieter, smaller, more agreeable. She didn't lose that power. She buried it. The teenager who burned with ambition and was told, don't get too big for yourself. Who do you think you are? He didn't lose the ambition. He learned to be ashamed of wanting it. Every single one of those buried parts, the feeling, the power, the ambition, the grief, the need, became shadow. Not because they were wrong, because someone taught us they were, and we believed them. Because we were children, and children will bury anything to keep the people they love. Now here is where Jung gets uncomfortable, because the shadow doesn't stay buried. He was very clear about this, very direct. What you refuse to face inside yourself does not disappear. It finds another way out. It comes out in the argument that explodes over something small. And you don't understand why you are so furious. It comes out in the jealousy you feel towards someone you genuinely like. And you hate yourself for feeling it. It comes out in the pattern, the relationship that starts perfectly and ends the same way every single time. The opportunity you destroy right when it starts going well. The connection you push away right when it starts feeling real. You look at the wreckage and you ask, why do I keep doing this to myself? Jung's answer is the one nobody wants to hear. You are not doing it consciously. Your shadow is doing it for you, and it will keep doing it until you turn around and face it. He called the outward expression of this projection, and it is one of the most honest things Jung ever wrote about human nature. Projection is when the parts of yourself you cannot face get placed onto the people around you. You cannot see them in yourself. so you see them everywhere else. The man who cannot tolerate arrogance in others is almost always carrying enormous pride he has never admitted to himself. The person who judges others constantly for being too needy, too emotional, too much, is almost always sitting on a mountain of unmet needs they packed away in childhood. The one who sees weakness and cowardice in everyone around them is almost always the most frightened person in the room. Jung didn't write this to shame anyone. He wrote it because he understood something deeply human. We do not hate in others what we have never felt ourselves. We hate in others what we recognize, what we buried, what we sentenced to darkness and told never to return. The intensity of your reaction to someone else is the compass pointing directly at your own shadow. The fury is not about them. It never was. But now, this is the part most people who talk about Jung completely leave out. And it is the most important thing he ever wrote about the shadow. He called it the golden shadow, and it changes everything. The shadow does not only hold what you are ashamed of, it also holds what you were told was too much, too sensitive, too powerful, too creative, too bright, too big for the room you were raised in. You buried your gifts alongside your wounds. Think about the person in your life you admire most deeply, not casually admire, deeply, almost painfully. The one whose talent makes something ache in your chest, whose confidence makes you feel simultaneously inspired and somehow smaller, whose life looks like something you cannot name but cannot stop wanting. That ache is not admiration. That ache is recognition. Jung said, "We do not deeply admire in others what has nothing to do with us. We admire what we abandon in ourselves. The creativity you were told was impractical. The sensitivity you were told was weakness. The ambition you were told was arrogance. The power you were told was too much for a person like you. You placed it on a pedestal outside yourself, because that felt safer than claiming it. Because claiming it meant returning to the moment someone told you, not you, not this. Put it down. Your golden shadow is not someone else's life. It is yours. The version of you that got left behind in a room you stopped visiting. And it has been waiting there ever since. Patient, unchanged, holding everything you told yourself you weren't allowed to want. Now go back to the man with the dream. The door at the end of the hallway. The one he woke up before reaching for 15 years in a row. Jung spent his entire career arguing that dreams are not random. They are the most honest communication a human being ever receives. Because when you are awake, you perform, you manage, you control, you present the version of yourself the world has approved. But when you sleep, the performance stops and the shadow speaks in images, in symbols, in the scenes your waking mind would never permit. That door was not a random image. It was his own unconscious, patient, persistent, returning every few months for 15 years, asking him the same question every single time. When are you going to look at what you put in here? When are you going to stop building your life on top of what you refuse to face? What was behind the door for him was not monstrous. It was the grief of a boy whose father left when he was 7 years old. A boy who decided, the day his father walked out, that needing people was the most dangerous thing a person could do. So he stopped needing. He became self-sufficient, rational, in control. He built a life that looked completely fine. And he spent 30 years choosing partners he could never fully reach, and wondering why intimacy always felt just slightly out of his grasp. The shadow behind the door was not darkness. It was a 7-year-old boy, still sitting in the same room, still waiting for someone to come back, still deciding, every single day without knowing it, that getting close to people ends in abandonment. The door wasn't a mystery. It was a memory. Jung's answer was never to destroy the shadow. You cannot destroy it. Everything you force into darkness only grows stronger there. The more you deny it, the louder it becomes. His answer was integration, turning toward what you buried, opening the door, not with horror, not with shame, with the quiet honesty of someone who is finally tired of being run by something they cannot see. He called this individuation, not becoming perfect, not healing in the way a motivational poster promises. Becoming whole, all of it present, all of it acknowledged. The wound and the gift, the boy who was left and the man who built walls around him, the buried power and the person terrified to claim it, no longer at war with each other, finally in the same room. The man with the dream eventually sat down with an analyst, not because he believed in any of it, because the dream came back for the 16th time. And something in him, something tired and quiet and done with running, finally said enough. In their first session, the analyst asked him one question. What do you think is behind the door? He opened his mouth to say he didn't know, and then stopped, because he did know. He had always known. He just had never been asked to say it out loud. And in that room, for the first time in 30 years, he said his father's name and wept, not because it fixed anything immediately, but because something that had been sealed for 30 years finally had air, finally had a witness, finally was real. Jung left one sentence in Man and His Symbols that has followed readers for 60 years. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You will think life keeps happening to you. The same patterns, the same endings, the same quiet devastation, repeating itself like a song you never chose but cannot stop hearing. You will call it bad luck. You will call it wrong timing. You will call it I just attract the wrong people, when really, you have been finding them, your shadow, leading you back to the same unfinished moment, the same unasked question, the same door. That man had his dream one final time. 3 months after he said his father's name out loud for the first time, he was standing in the house again, the dark hallway, the door at the end. But this time was different. This time he walked toward it. This time his hand found the handle. And this time he opened it. He never told anyone what was inside. He said only this. It was smaller than I expected, and it had been waiting a very long time. Jung's question was never, what do you want to become? It was always, what are you refusing to see? Because what you refuse to see is already writing your story. The only question left is whether you write it consciously, or keep calling it fate. Your door is somewhere. You already know where it is. You have walked past it more times than you can count. The question Jung spent his entire life asking is the same one waiting for you right now. When are you going to open it? If this reached something in you, don't scroll past it. Sit with it. Ask yourself the question Jung never stopped asking. What have I buried? And what has it cost me? Subscribe for more. Share this with someone who keeps asking why their life keeps repeating. And leave a comment below. What do you think is behind your door? This conversation is better when you are in it.